How's it, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Fix Show. This is episode number 14. Shay, is it 14? Episode number 14. Welcome, everyone. And before I introduce today's guest, I want to tell you about the Digital School of Marketing. They are a sponsor of this show, and that is where you can go if you want to learn the digital marketing skills, the survival skills of the future, as I'd like to say. Go over to the digitalmarketingschool.co.za. All their courses are accredited nationally and internationally. And if you subscribe to the show by leaving your details or hitting subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you're listening, you might stand the chance to win a course worth 11,500 Rand. And the winner will be announced on the 31st of August. So from our side, we have in studio Melissa Rowlston, who is the founder and the owner of Maverick Web Media.
Yeah.
Maverick Web.
Maverick Web.
Awesome. Melissa, you guys specialize in creating and crafting e-commerce stores for small to medium-sized businesses and obviously bigger enterprises, companies as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm stoked to have a Shopify conversation with you and just an e-commerce general chat around where the industry is going. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, man. So let's start with your origin story. Maybe just who you are, what you guys specialize in, as I've mentioned now, but obviously you'll articulate a little bit more how it started and what you guys are currently doing.
Okay, well, thank you. So I have a very strange origin story. I actually was in financial journalism for a long time. And then, I don't know if you know the Daily Maverick. So about 9 years ago, Branko, the editor, he decided to launch it. And I went with him and we decided we'd launch the Daily Maverick. And I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. And what he taught me was phenomenal. He basically showed me that media was no longer digital. Physical. It was no longer print. And everything was going digital. And he totally revolutionized the way I saw the world. And I realized that people assimilate content on their phones, on digital media. And it was a year's process of us launching it. And during that time, I changed the way I thought. And then I had my daughter, and unfortunately I left Branko, and he has gone on to, in my opinion, launch the most amazing web news site.
Okay.
But in that time, it changed everything about the way I decided I was going to portray or get media and content across. Then I had my daughter, and I decided, okay, I'm going to launch an online website. Because I was a working mom and I thought I can't find all the pieces of paraphernalia that I wanted to buy. So I started an e-commerce website and I started looking around and I actually built my first store on Shopify. And it was a great little store.
When was this exactly?
This was 9 years ago.
Sure. Okay. 2011, 2012.
No. So my daughter was born, 2009.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And so it was the year my daughter was born. And I built my store and I ran it for a while. And during this time, I learned so much. We didn't have payment gateways at that time.
How did you make payments? EFTs?
So we did it actually, I did it through an Australian company. But it took me it must have taken me 3 months to actually get a payment gateway integrated. Where now I can do it in 2 days.
Yeah.
So it was this process and I learned so much. And so for about 3 years, I ran my online store, but I learned from the ground up how to, make a website.
What did you sell, if I may ask?
So I sold things from toys to mom's jewelry, anything that a working mom wanted. So she could sit and watch her kids swimming and shop online.
And what was it called?
It was called I Love Stuff.
I Love Stuff. That's a cool name.
And it still exists because I sold it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it still exists. It's different, but it still has that whole concept behind it.
Okay.
So it changed and it grew over the years. And then I decided I didn't want to do this anymore. I actually hated packing boxes. That was the truth. I wasn't actually made to be a merchant. So I decided I wanted to build websites. And so I started getting in clients slowly. And they were interesting clients. So at the beginning, I'd build a website for a friend. And then I started slowly getting like paid customers, clients come in, and I'd start building for them. And it started slowly, and I really taught myself. And at the beginning, it would take me a long time to build a website. It really would. And I learned, and I taught myself. And then I got a partner into I Love Stuff, and it wasn't a successful endeavor, unfortunately. And so I decided to sell. So I sold the business off, and then I decided to open a new business, which was building e-commerce sites. And when I started, I built, on different platforms. I messed around. I learnt. It was tough stuff. And then slowly, I gravitated towards Shopify. It was definitely the best e-commerce platform. It was definitely the thing that worked best for e-commerce. And I had played with everything else, and this is where I wanted to go. So I worked very hard on becoming a Shopify expert. And then I won a competition, which sent me to Canada.
Oh, wow.
I was named first South African female e-commerce Shopify expert. And they sent me to Canada, and it just blew my mind. It absolutely opened doors for me. And the big thing that changed was the way I saw how internationally they did e-commerce. So in South Africa, you have these pillars of companies. So you'll have the designers, and you'll have the builders, and you'll have the developers, and you'll have all these silos of businesses. And you go overseas, and everything gets pulled into an agency, and they do everything together. And the reason they do everything together is, first of all, accountancy. So you'd have a client over the table, and they'd say, well, we're not converting. And someone would say, oh, it's because so-and-so didn't do their job. And someone else would say, oh, because so-and-so's not converting. And so there was always this feeling of, you didn't do it. And everyone would blame someone else. And so overseas, they would pull it all together, and they would make sure it worked in-house. Okay. And also because there was this concept of we will be the best holistic team. So I came back here, and I decided I wasn't going to be a building company. I was going to be a full service agency. And my name, very strangely, was Maverick Marketing at the time. But that was a hangover from when Branko was Maverick Marketing, Daily Maverick. So I had Maverick Marketing in there, and I was but I wasn't a marketer. I was a web builder. I was building e-commerce sites. And I decided I'd try bring some of the marketing in. And it was a conundrum, because really I wanted to build websites. That was what I loved doing. So I tried to bolster my team. And this is when I started hiring people. And I started with content creation, because that was, my strength.
Yeah.
You actually, what is a website? Even e-commerce, it's about disseminating content. It's about bringing people in and saying, this is the content we have, buy it. So then I brought in my team members, and they started helping me create content. So I had a very good designer who came in, and then I pulled my developer in. And then I brought someone in who's very much like me. She's my number 2, and her name is Santane, and I adore her. And she's more like a all-rounder, like I am, who can do a little bit of everything, but needs a very strong team. So I go on there, and I'm like, I don't know what that code is, guys. What's that code? I need a strong development team behind me, but I am a very good all-rounder, and I can say, this is how we need to do it. But my team is now, my big support structure, who goes in and does the nitty-gritty fine work.
Yes.
And that's how we basically built the team. But now we're trying to be holistic. But it's a very difficult thing to be. Like you said earlier, you don't want to be, you want to be strong in something that you do. You
want to be a jack of all trades. You want to be a master of something.
Exactly. And our strength really is building websites, and websites that convert. But we are under no illusion that if you build the most beautiful website in the world, if you give it to a client afterwards and they do not market it, that website is going to die. And that is heartbreaking for us to see. It is
because it's your baby.
It's our baby.
Yeah. So what year did you actually start playing around with Shopify specifically?
So when I launched my first store, it was a Shopify store.
Okay.
So from the beginning, I played with Shopify all the way through. But
Sorry, what year was that? 2000?
9.
2009. Okay, so that
2009.
was when you started your I Love Stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then along the way, I've played with different things.
Yeah.
And so I've played with WordPress in the meantime, of course, because we built normal
Yeah.
normal websites.
And at that time, I think it was the market leader as well.
What?
WooCommerce.
Well, my opinion, it's not ever going to be. It's not ever going to rival Shopify in terms of an e-commerce platform, because it's not e-commerce first, it's web first. It's like a website builder, and then the e-commerce plugs in afterwards. So it's a very different kind of process.
Yes.
WooCommerce, it's not e-commerce first. But I played with it because it's very beautiful. WooCommerce, you can build a beautiful site, but it never rivals e-commerce first.
Okay.
So I did, and I also built a lot of websites, straight websites. And then I played with Magento a little bit, but it's very expensive.
And very complicated and clunky, I feel. Like, I mean, at my previous company that I worked at, we used Magento, and in my experience, I just wasn't a massive fan. I didn't feel that it was really that intuitive. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are very pro Magento, and this is not a conversation about Magento, but I just felt it was very clunky, and I know everybody who got there felt the same way. I don't know if that is the sentiment of people in the market, obviously.
I just think it's good for big like product catalogs, and it services a different kind of market, and it wasn't where I was. And I can't afford to put a small client on it when they're paying 25,000 Rand a month in fees.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that I directed my focus in. And I love Shopify's ability to scale, where you can start off paying nothing and, well, barely a minimum, and then going to a plus package where you have that functionality. So,
and you mentioned, obviously, you started playing around with Shopify. You've tested out many different platforms in your life. I'm assuming you've also played around with Wix at times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
WooCommerce, Wix. What made you gravitate towards Shopify? From what I'm hearing you say, is you said, well, it's obviously e-commerce first.
Yeah.
Is that specifically what drew you to Shopify, and why you're an advocate of it today?
Well, exactly. So Wix is a builder. It's not actually a platform. So I would never go with a builder. And Shopify's self-hosted, so you never have to worry about it going down. If you were to say, what's the difference between Woo and Shopify? The difference is you will not sleep on Black Friday if you're on Woo.
Okay.
You don't. It's not an e-commerce platform.
Yes.
You don't have that peace of mind. If you've got over 10 products on Woo, you do not have. You are stuck.
Yeah.
You really are stuck. So I don't think that. And also in South Africa, people do not build WooCommerce right. They really don't. The amount of rebuilds we've done from WooCommerce onto Shopify is scary, because people don't know how to do it properly. But it's so simple that so many people try and do it, and then we just have to come in and rebuild. So
when it comes to WooCommerce, what is the mistake people make, in your opinion?
First of all, they don't understand that WooCommerce is actually, because it's a plugin, it's not a platform. So WooCommerce is great for when you're making a beautiful site, when you're making a beautiful WordPress site, and then you're adding products in afterwards. But it's not good for e-commerce first. Shopify is made as a platform for e-commerce, but it's not made in the inverse, where then afterwards you're having all this content and all these pages afterwards. That's WordPress. Then you have a website, and then you've got a couple of products plugged onto it. So my opinion is WordPress and WooCommerce are great for services companies. They're great for when you've got lots of content, and then you've got and you're going to add on a product to sell. But you've got to be very careful about scalability. You've got to be very careful about traffic, how much traffic you get to it. You're not going to cope with a Black Friday sale when you've got massive traffic. You've got to have serious servers. You've got to have serious security. There are considerations that, if you're going to be a big company on WordPress, then you have massive servers to help you out there.
Yeah. So it's funny that you've mentioned Black Friday and going down in terms of hosting, because at my previous company, Black Friday, for everybody else, was massive. Spent a lot of time and effort prepping, planning, and then on a day, 2 hours after the special launched, it's just crazy. SMSs went out, emails went out, and everything just goes down. That was using Magento, and we hosted with Hesna.
Yeah.
And obviously you can get bigger servers and whatnot, but you've mentioned that Shopify is self-hosted.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, maybe just explain what self-hosted means when it comes to Shopify and what the difference is when, you have a website like WooCommerce or maybe Magento that's hosted with a hosting company like Hesna or somebody else locally.
So self-hosted basically means Shopify has its own hosting, it's got its own servers. And so basically when you set it up, you're not using Xnilo, or you're not using AfriHost or whatever. All you're doing is doing a redirect on them. So basically those websites are hosted on Shopify servers, and Shopify servers don't go down. So like on Black Friday, it's Shopify's baby. They are not going to let you go down. And they have proved it over and over again that they've never been down. No Shopify sites have gone down on Black Friday,
Really?
which is amazing. And for last Black Friday, we had companies who were who migrated from Magento for the day, for Black Friday, because they were like, we will not go down on Black Friday again. And we had to make sure that they were up on their Shopify sites for Black Friday so that they didn't go down. And they didn't go down. Nothing went down on Shopify for Black Friday. And that's because they self-hosted, and Shopify, that's their baby, Make sure that their servers are up and running and can manage the traffic. I mean, there's a story of Kylie Cosmetics when she launched. I don't know the figures exactly. I need to actually get them. But the day she launched, she sold out within the first 45 minutes. I mean, the traffic was insane, and not a little glitch in the Shopify service. So that kind of thing, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about security. You're not going to be hacked. I mean, that is a massive thing where WordPress gets hacked all the time. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You have to have so many firewalls and security protocols when you're on WordPress, and you're not going to have that on Shopify. And those are just like a basic peace of mind.
So the site's never going to go down. That's great. We don't necessarily know how they do it, but I'm assuming like Facebook, you're taking care of your own service and you're making sure that there's enough space and that you're buying up all these servers where you can in order to accommodate, the memory and whatever, the data and everything else that goes with it. And you mentioned WooCommerce, specifically WordPress, in terms of being hacked and security issues. Like, I mean, I've seen that time and time again. Yeah. I used to play around with Joomla, and I resonate with you a lot because you mentioned earlier that you self-taught. That's correct. Like, you didn't study anything, right?
Nope, nothing.
So me neither. So I basically just taught myself for the last 10 years. Everything I know today is through reading and learning and teaching. So that's very inspirational from your end, obviously. So I look up to you because it's not easy to get here, just trying to figure things out for yourself. But you mentioned that a lot of websites do get hacked, and I was resonating. It took me home a little bit. In 2011, I started my first Joomla site, and was my first blog that I started, my health and fitness blog. And the moment I went over to WordPress, I don't know why, someone said, go to WordPress, it's great for SEO, it's great for blogs, don't use Joomla. And at that time, you believe whatever anybody tells you. Whomever knows a little bit more than you, you believe that is gospel when they give you advice. And I went over to WordPress. Within the first week, I got hacked.
Yep.
And there wasn't someone maliciously trying to hack my site of 100 visitors a day. I'm assuming it was like some bot or, I don't know even how these things work, but it was quite frustrating. And a lot of people experience that, and WordPress is actually insane.
Totally. My developer is hysterical because when we get a new build, the first thing she'll do is hack the sites. And it's not a malicious thing. She'll just be like, oh, I got all the content. And I'll be like, why do you have all the content? And she'll say, because they were too slow. The client was too slow giving it to me. And I'll be like, oh, man, But it just shows you there is, and I mean, she'll hack anything. She'll just like go in there and just pull out all the content because no one has those protocols that actually prevent the hacking. And when we do a WordPress site, we'll say to all our clients, you need security, you need security.
Yeah.
And they'll always say it's too expensive. And then what we do is we do not put apps on. And they'll say, but we need apps. But my developer says to me, Melissa, apps are the cracks where the bugs crawl in.
Yeah, I've had someone say that to me. His name is Brendan. He was my very first developer I hired back in my first business, and he used to tell me that all the time because I was a plugging maniac.
Yeah.
Every single plugin, a review plugin, make your site faster plugin, protect your site plugin, make your blog more attractive plugin. Anything that just would have optimized my site or made my site look prettier, I installed. And that was his words. Don't.
Don't.
Keep it to a minimum, yeah.
That's where she's hysterical. She's like, Melissa, you can't put an app on, or well, a plugin in WordPress.
Yeah.
It was like those are the little bug holes, and then she's like, and no one will pay for security. None of our clients will pay for security. They're all like, no, WordPress is free, and I'm like, well, actually,
Yeah.
it can't be free if you wanted to do it right, and yeah, so it's
shame.
dodgy.
I don't want to turn this into a slating session because we do use WordPress.
I use WordPress.
So for blogs and stuff, we love WordPress, but I think essentially people need to know that if you do use WordPress, you need to take the necessary precautions, and you need to spend the money to protect the site and have that necessary security gate guarding your assets.
I mean, our website is built on WordPress.
Yeah.
But we have a very embarrassing story there. We got hacked as well. Our WordPress website was hacked, and for about 6 months we didn't have a website. And I said to our staff, I said, guys, we are like the cobbler's son who has no shoes. It is so embarrassing. And eventually we were like, okay, we're gonna build our website, and we just decided WordPress, and we got it up in 2 days. We like literally just hacked it out in 2 days, and it's there now. But it's WordPress, and when we all love WordPress. WordPress is the most beautiful way to build. It is. I mean, it's got so many themes and so many templates, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But it must be done for what it is meant to be done for. So,
and you need those security measures in place as well, obviously. So looking at Shopify, versus WooCommerce and versus Wix and versus, a lot of other e-commerce, I would say, brands and products that are out there. Merchants is the right term, I think, I assume. I'm looking at stats, and I've got it in front of me. Out of the top 10,000 websites in the world, currently 22% of them are Shopify stores.
okay.
And that to me says something, because Shopify is probably one of the newer players in this space, if I'm correct.
And I know that their share price has done something absolutely ridiculous in the last year. And they're trying to rival Amazon, but they're totally different.
No, of course, it's a different model, yeah.
But they are just growing exponentially. They really are.
And it's so easy to set up. So I think in essence, if you're an SME that want to just start exploring, they've got free options and they've got paid options. But from what I've seen, it's very easy to get started. Where with WordPress and WooCommerce or any other site, like there's some technical. I mean, I can't start a WordPress site by myself or a WooCommerce site by myself. Like, I know it's probably easy enough to do, but I can't. But I do know I can start a Shopify store by myself. So maybe just let's talk about how easily accessible it is for those who maybe want to start playing around with it.
So my opinion is, I think Woo is very easy, and I think Shopify is very easy. But they both have the capacity for scalability, which is what works so well for us. So Shopify, you can build the most simple, fast site easily. You can really get on there and you can get selling your products fast. And anyone can really do that. I mean, I can go onto a site and I can see automatically if it's a basic Shopify build. I'll just look at it and I'll know. But you also have the capacity to highly customize Shopify. I mean, we've done some builds where we've got 15,000 SKUs on there. Wow. It's a SKU is a...
Yes.
Okay.
It's a barcode, basically, right?
Yeah, it's a product.
Yeah.
And we've got some websites where they are absolutely spectacular in terms of the customization we've been able to make on them. And yet at the same time, you can do really your moms and pops, your basic store where you're selling 10 products. And so you really do have a scale from elementary, anyone can go on and be selling. And not just selling, but selling effectively, where you're on there and your products are being sold and they're checking out and there's not a problem, to something massively sophisticated. And that's what I love about Shopify, highly scalable. Whereas WooCommerce, it's actually pretty easy to build, but you will have a problem. And this is what when we get like converts, that people will go onto it and they'll think they can build it, and they'll build something and there are issues. So you have to do Woo properly. You really have to know what you're doing, because otherwise there's so many glitches. You will get a site, but you won't actually be able to check out of it. So Shopify works really well there. Anyone can actually build a basic store.
What I've seen about Shopify, and you've said it there just now, is like setting it up is quite easy to do from A to Z. Anybody can finish the site off nicely and make sure that if a visitor do come onto the site, they can add a product to their cart and proceed with the checkout. Where with WooCommerce and some others, you obviously need someone who's more technically inclined in order to help you set up the payment gateways. And also the checkout process. People don't understand how psychologically driven that last couple of pages should be. And a lot of people drop off when it comes to adding a product to their cart, then going to the actual checkout process. That's where a lot of people drop off, and about 60% of them never complete an actual checkout, if not more.
Yeah.
So what I've seen with Shopify is they take into consideration that psychological element that someone might want to go back and look for something else, or they might have second thoughts. And that last 2 steps before you have to open your wallet and take out your credit card is quite seamless in Shopify and very easy to navigate on your phone, on your computer. And every single Shopify store is the same from what I've seen. Obviously, you can customize it. But what I've seen is it's very clean, very simple, and very user-friendly and intuitive to use. And that's one of the reasons why I believe Shopify across the board have probably higher conversion rates. I don't know if that is something that you agree with.
Completely. So Shopify has such a it's such a big company, and they have such a big development team that go in the back end and they go and they look at this and they look at the user journey. So someone who's gone in there and has taken the checkout process, or they've had a team of, 100 people go and look at the checkout process and had this, looked at the psychology behind it and said, this is how we design checkout. And you actually can't edit the checkout page. You actually do not have the functionality to edit checkout except in Shopify Plus. It's the only place that you can edit checkout. Yeah. And we've only ever edited our checkout templates in one of our Shopify Plus stores. And even then, why are we messing with someone who's had like all this like research and development go into this is the logic and the psychology behind why we should do it like this. Mm. And when I hear people say, we'll do you a custom build, it's much a better idea than using something like a platform like Shopify. We'll do you a custom build. And I'm like, why would you go with the custom build when the psychology and all that information and that research has been done into the platform that works so seamlessly? You've got this base that is brilliant, and then you're just working on top of that. That, as you say, that psychology is created for you, and now you're just building on the shoulders of it. And so, yes, I believe that it converts better. I believe that checkout is clever. I think that they're shopping carts, I believe that process works seamlessly. I believe that they have integrated processes, the notifications, how those work, how they have structured them. There are 18 notifications that go after the checkout process. You can customize them so that they don't look like the standard ones, but they are a process of notifications that come out afterwards.
Can you give me some examples of those notifications?
So they start, and it's notification of confirmation, notification of fulfillment, notification of failed fulfillment, notification of shipping, notification of refunds, notification of abandoned checkout, notification of timed abandoned checkout. So these are the ones, and you set up your flows with them.
Are these notifications to the user? Obviously, this sounds like more to the actual owner of the store.
No, these are to your customer.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, you have to the merchant back, you'll say new order came in, those flows as well. But these ones are automatic to your customer who has bought. So Shopify has really thought about the process. They take you through that user journey, and they have created that structure for you. Yeah. It's not just about eCommerce. It's about how eCommerce and the customer traffics through and journeys through your site.
And I think people underestimate how important that communication and transparency is, because ideally, if you are a customer, you've just spent money, you want to know exactly what's happening and why it's happening.
Yeah.
I got the order, your payment was declined, here's what you need to do, order was accepted, thank you so much. And now we're going to start packing it. Now it's obviously out for delivery. And now where most stores, from what I'm hearing you say, probably by default just have 1 or 2 or 3, notifications that go out that you can change, and you can obviously use a plugin, or you can alternatively code additional forms of communication.
Or you can forget to do them.
Yeah.
And here, you need to do them.
Yeah.
Shopify has the ability and do them.
So this is where Shopify is obviously different, because by default they have all these things in place.
Make sure that you go and code these up beautifully and make them look like your store. And my opinion is utilize all this capacity that Shopify has created for you.
Tell me a little bit more about the pricing options. So for those interested in being cognizant to the fact that we have a lot of SMEs listening to this type of episodes, the pricing options when it comes to Shopify, I think there's obviously a free version, I'm assuming.
No, there's no free version.
Okay.
So there's a free button that you can use, but that so it's a button that can. No, actually, I don't think it's free. I think it's $9. And that you can put into your emailers, or you can put onto a store. So you can actually build a WordPress site, and instead of putting the plugin of WooCommerce on it, you can put Shopify as your plugin. And you can have a WordPress site, and you can enable it with Shopify. And in my opinion, that's often a better way to do it, because Shopify's e-commerce in the back end is better structured than Woo.
Okay, so hold on. I just want to ask a question there. I just want to be clear on this. So you can have a WordPress site, and as opposed to having a WooCommerce plugin, you can have a Shopify plugin.
Yes. So that's a button.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's I think it's $9 a month. Then your first Shopify package is $29 a month, and you pay a transaction fee of 2%.
Okay.
Unless you use Shopify's payment gateway, which is Shopify Payments, but that's not available in South Africa yet. And that gives you a certain amount of staff accounts. I think it's 3 staff accounts. And then all your basic functionalities. Then your next package is your Shopify, your standard Shopify account, which is $79 a month. And that gives you like free gift cards in it and 15 staff accounts, and you go down to 1% transaction fee.
Okay.
And then your next one, I think, is $299 a month. So
is that the plus one?
No. Oh. And then plus, you're paying about 20,000 Rand a month. So Plus rivals Magento. They are on the equivalent in terms of pricing, but Plus is phenomenal. So Plus has all your flows in it. So when I say flows, it goes, if a customer does X, you do Y. It like really does all the logic. It tags everyone. You can go into like massive sophisticated kind of logic where you say, if a customer comes on and they come from this particular location, direct them here. If a customer comes on and they're tagged with X, do this. If a customer does X, direct them to this page. It has flow in it.
It sounds like marketing automation software basically built into Shopify. Is that it?
It's customer journeying.
Okay.
But it is spectacular. So Plus is, in my opinion, Shopify on absolute steroids in terms of what the functionality can do. And then they also use it for like sites with when you need like support directly. It's immediate support, etc. Like you can, we have it anyway. I'll like contact our support and they'll contact us, back straight away. But Shopify Plus has, you have your contact who will do anything for you. And the support on Shopify is spectacular as well. You're not going to get support on WooCommerce, of course, because it's free. But Shopify support, they'll do anything with you. You have a development problem and they're there. And, the same with your apps.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. But I put all my packages onto a $29 package. I have a scale which says, okay, once you hit, I think it's 500,000 in revenue per month, then you move on to the 79 Rand.
Okay.
Because then you go on to 1% transaction fee, and it works out. So I just have this document that I send all my clients and say, this is when you scale into your next package, just so that you're keeping your fees down. But everyone starts on 29, and So that's like 400
Yeah,
rand a
roughly
month.
400 bucks now, yeah.
Yeah. And in my opinion, that will definitely outweigh security on a WooCommerce and hosting prices. So you're covering that kind of price, security and hosting, and I think it is absolutely worth it. But you've got to weigh it up in terms of your business model. There are lots of hidden costs on e-commerce that people don't, account for. People will say, it's cheaper to run an e-commerce site than a brick and mortar, but they're not thinking about things like courier costs. Do I bury my courier costs? Where do I put my courier costs? Where do I put things like my storage costs? Where do I put my boxes, my packaging?
All the plugins you have to buy, I suppose.
Plugins. You still need staff. You still need people to pack your boxes. You still have all those other overheads. You still have an office. You still have all those additional overheads. And just because you don't have a physical store, you still have rent. You're still paying a rent. So it's not as cheap as people think it is to run an e-commerce store. And you have to actually, when you're going in and doing your pricing, factor those things in.
100%, and I agree with you. We've seen it time and time again with clients who come through our doors, and obviously the previous company I worked at, 10% of our business was online. We had 28 stores, and that's where the costs add up quite quickly because every division was run as its own business. You need to ensure that everybody gets the people who are running those divisions, obviously they get incentivized. But again, every single division runs as its own business in a way because you want to see where the business is making money and actually losing money so that you can make better decisions down the line. And what we've seen, packaging costs a fortune. And the other thing we've noticed was these plugins, they add up quite quickly in terms of cost.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to share your thoughts on that, but I think on average, we've seen like specifically small to medium-sized businesses, you're going to have to budget roughly around maybe to $5,000 a month for these type of plugins. I don't know what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm very cagey with using plugins because first of all, plugins slow you down. And when I actually went to Unite, it was one of the things I learned. And before then, I was the queen of plugins. I loved plugins. I was just sticking plugins. They were amazing. And I learned you never have more than 5 plugins on your website.
Okay.
And so I came back, and now I just whittled down my plugins. Everything.
Do you say that specifically based on performance or for performance reasons? Or
so for performance, that is the main reason why I do. But also for complexity. So because what happens often is your plugins start conflicting with each other. And so often we'll do a website and you'll need this massive sophistication. You need a loyalty plan and you'll need a wholesale plan and you'll need this plan or whatever it is. And they start conflicting with each other. And then you've got your couriers integrating and then you've got a different kind of payment gateway. And then suddenly something's not working. And you're like, I don't know what it is. And it's 2 plugins conflicting. So you've got to be careful with how many plugins you use. So what we have found is we use themes that are much more sophisticated and that have like a basic, what a plugin would normally use, we use it in our theme. So a lot of people will go for a free theme. So a basic free theme on Shopify is called Debut.
Correct.
And so it doesn't cost anything. And people will be like, yeah, I'm using Debut. And I'll go and I'll be like, that's Debut. But we don't recommend it because then you're just apping your website.
Yes.
You have to use so many apps. You have to use an app for your menu and you have to use an app for just the standards, but it's free. Then you've got a theme which is like $180 and that will give you more functionalities and you'll use less apps. We use a theme standard which is $450. So you're looking at an $8,000 theme. But it's a once-off cost and you don't app. It's got so many of those integrations in it that you don't need to app. So I'm cutting down on 5 apps by using an expensive theme.
Okay, I like that a lot. Because I think, so what I'm hearing you say is like rather spend more money on your theme because that's going to help your performance and from a complexity standpoint as well. Nothing's going to F out or, necessarily break or... So at the end of the day, that's quite important to note because I think a lot of people want to save the once-off cost because they look at that once-off cost going, oh, it's too expensive. I'd rather use everything that's free, but they don't necessarily understand the implications.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for explaining that. That's actually quite crucial.
And no one will be paying $2,000 to $5,000 a month on my plugins or my apps. I won't do it. I really will keep it low. But some people I've got some clients that want this and this and this and this and this, and I have to say to them, okay, I'm talking you down, okay?
Yes.
It's we need to actually focus on what is important.
Okay.
And some people really do want things that are not necessary, and we have to say, you're going to get conflicts. You have to think about how we put it down.
It might be shiny in the beginning, and it might be cool in the beginning, but it's not necessarily something that's going to help you grow your bottom line. Yeah. The question is, if you had to maybe, now that we've spoken about plugins, I'm quite interested and intrigued. What kind of plugins would you advise? Do you have some favorite plugins that you could potentially share with us, and why? Or
there are standards that I put on all of our sites, things like I'll always put an order printer on it. Everyone gets an order printer because you need to be able to print your orders, and then we code them with HTML so that you can make it look like the packing slip for your particular company.
Okay.
So that in your warehouse you need it to look like this. So we can code it to make it look whatever you like. So something like that will be a standard. A reviews app. So you get standard reviews apps that get integrated, and sometimes we just leave the standard ones on. But a lot of the time we'll put a sophisticated app on for a reviews app, and the reason for that is because I want things like, I want it to automatically publish a review if it's over 4 stars. I don't want you to have to go in there and say, oh, I'm publishing this one, I'm not publishing this one. I want over 4 stars it publishes. If it's under 4 stars, you can go in and decide if it's worthwhile you publishing or not. I mean, people think that, not all reviews get published, or they think all reviews get published. It's not true. You have that kind of flexibility on it. So a reviews app is something that, and you also want to be able to edit that kind of stuff. You want to edit what it looks like, etc. So a reviews app. We do a lot of loyalty programs, so that will be something. I love email flows. I think those are, so often we'll put something like that on and it integrates with the loyalty app. Sometimes a menu, but normally we use it's called Flex, the theme that we use, and that has all the menus that you can wish for integrated. Sometimes we'll use sophisticated filters that you need. Sometimes we'll use collection filters that you need. We use a page builder, which builds themes.
Okay, you can customize it any way you want. And
that's our standard one. I love it. That's what we build most on. So those are basically the apps that we use.
Okay. Yeah. And another reason why I love Shopify, specifically from being a marketing agency, is because it integrates with your marketing so seamlessly. It just makes it so much easier to do your marketing more successfully when it comes to social media, because now you've got Facebook shops, and you can tag products, and you've got Facebook Messenger chatbots, and you've got WhatsApp. And what we found with a lot of other platforms, these marketing channels need someone who's technically inclined in order to install it and get it working. But what I've seen with Shopify is when it comes to tracking analytics, there's so much insight that they already provide you with as a standard, but setting up your Google Analytics, setting up your Facebook Pixel, and integrating all these marketing channels are so seamless and so easy to do. Yeah.
Well, you said earlier, those kind of things, what is integrated into Shopify. So Shopify, your store, Instagram tagging, Instagram store, that's part of it. That's in there already. Your Google Analytics, your Facebook Pixel. Those are things we do as a standard. I mean, you don't have to do them, but they're in there. And then a chat. That's another app we always put in as a chat. You can do a WhatsApp chat, but my opinion is you want an integrated chat on there that you don't have to only use from your phone. You can be on your desktop and you can have a chat and you can be chatting with someone. That's also something essential in terms of a user journey.
Correct. Yeah, so I think from our side, like you've mentioned it, is that it's default for you guys to put in all those tracking analytics for a customer. But you know how many clients have come to us with nothing? So they've got a site, and then they've been, spending some of their own money on marketing the business, and they realize obviously, they're struggling and they need help. And then the first thing we look at is well, let's look at the data, and we usually say we act like doctors, because we have to, diagnose and try and cure what we can, and essentially, come up with a cure for this problem that you have when it comes to the lack of sales or whatever it is. But there's nothing to diagnose because we
Yeah.
don't have any data. So they come to us with the lack of data, and then we have to start from scratch. And it's like, look, you've spent money on your marketing for the last 2 or 3 months. I want to tell you that that's money down the drain. If you had data, at least we could have salvaged some of that investment because it would have given us insight that we can use. Now we don't have anything. So now if you spend 20 grand a month on your marketing for the last 3 months, that 60 grand doesn't mean anything now because we can't even see what's happened with that 60 grand. That's so sad.
And Shopify is great like that. All your analytics is in the back end. You can, I don't know how I would survive without analytics. You go on there, you can see your past year in sales and traffic and everything. And without it, what am I going to do? I can't tell you anything. So we use that all the time, our analytics. We get clients who come in and they're converting from a different platform. And we're like, can we have your Google, your Google Analytics number or your Facebook pixel? And they're like, we don't have that. And I'll be like, it is shocking to hear that they don't have that. Literally, and then we'll set those things up for them. But those are standard. We don't even think about them. They are. You've got to have them.
No, for sure. I can imagine. And preaching to the choir, that's the first thing we do is try and look at the data. And at the end of the day, when there's nothing, it's so sad because all that money that you've invested is now literally down the drain. And even if you didn't have sales, if you've got data, at least we can use some of that data. So that money, some of it is still worth spending because you need to do those kind of tests anyway.
Yeah.
So, and it's very sad that we can't salvage any of those investments technically when they haven't had that installed.
And it's interesting because you say it's like money down the drain, and we're just thinking it's like, how do we know what you're doing? How do we know if your site is working? Because that's for us is the important thing. How do we know that we have made a convertible site? How do we know that your users are trafficking correctly? How do we know that we are appealing to your audience? Because we've got sites, we've got nuts and bolts sites, and then we've got clothing sites, and then we've got vitamin sites. And how do I know that your audience tracks the same way as the other one? Because they don't. They don't shop the same way. They don't. That the user flow is completely different, and we need to know how they journey. And we need to know that the front page looks completely different on each site because of the audience.
No, 100%, I agree completely. The other thing I want to ask is when it comes to, obviously you're going to have some of these business owners listening, a lot of them would probably want to go and try it themselves, and they're going to start with a $29 subscription, and they're going to start building their own sites. Actually, I had Greg Tinkler here, who's the founder of Slender U. He was one of our very first clients, and they've grown their e-commerce division from 0 to 5 million rand in revenue in the last year and a half. And it was amazing. So that episode will air next week because we're about 2 weeks ahead of schedule. But it was so awesome chatting to him because we talked about Shopify and what a role it's played in the success of the business, specifically from the online division. And obviously he loves it, and he's been saying he's been doing it himself. Obviously you can. There's always help for expert advice, and you guys are running a successful business, being experts in the field. But a lot of these business owners who have the time, or if you've got staff who's got the time, who's passionate about it, they can leverage Shopify, and it's quite intuitive to use. So you can go about doing most of it yourself, I would say. And with that said, is there any best practices that you want to share with these guys who are adamant on trying to do it themselves? And then say, look, from a perspective of, we understand that you want to save costs. So if that's the route that you're going to go, here's 4 or 5 things that we suggest you consider or look at if you're going to be doing it.
The big difference is if you're going to do it yourself, it's going to take you a year versus it's going to take us 2 weeks.
No, absolutely.
So that is the big difference, is we know the time, and we also know what works. We've got so much experience in what works. So I'll have a conversation with someone who's been doing it have been playing with their store for 4 months, and they'll phone me and they'll have a conversation, and it'll completely revolutionize everything they're doing. And they'll say, oh my God, I did not know. So that is where It's
the same with us. We're in the marketing space. So every single business owner who wants to save money feels that they can do it themselves. So they can boost posts on Facebook. And then again, after 2 or 3 months, they come to us and they're like, look, I've been doing it myself. Please help me out. And then it's essentially when, their conversation starts getting interesting and they start realizing there's a lot that they don't know. And I'm assuming it's exactly the same in your space as well.
So we do have people who come in and they've started their own stores and they just can't take them to the next level. They're just like, I don't know why it's not working. I don't know what's going on. So we do have customers like that, clients like that. But I think the big thing is, we do it fast. We have all the connections. We are able to integrate everything from like your accounting system to your courier to your payment gateway, and we do it fast. And we also do it. We know what works, and we do it. We're slick at what we do. But if you're going to do it yourself, get onto the forums. There are lots of Facebook forums. There are lots of Facebook groups. Listen to people. I mean, there's a lot of rubbish on those groups too. Like sometimes I listen to those groups. I'm like, oh my God, what are people saying? But take other people's advice. Listen to what they've said. But also filter out the rubbish. And you'll hear the rubbish. It's generally the people who shout the loudest. And
I've got a saying that all advice is bad advice. And the reason I say that is because nobody truly can give advice that's 100% contextual to where you are right now, considering your bank account, considering your psychological state, considering what you want to achieve in the next 5 years versus what you've gone through in the last 5 years. So I think, all advice is bad advice. If you're one of these people who want to do it yourself, until you sit with an expert who can actually kind of like consolidate all the information that's around and be like, cool, this is what we suggest. And then also here is why we suggest it. Yeah. But do know you've got other options, and here are the pros and cons of those options at the end of the day as well. So I like that, that analogy purely because I think everybody feels the moment they've been in someone's one shoe for 1 mile, they can give advice. And I think that's very unfair because it's not always contextual. And these forums aren't contextual at the end of the day.
They're not. But they're interesting because I think that you get people with the same kind of problems as you. So go and listen to those kind of things, and they'll often give you the right kind of contacts. But play. That's my opinion, is play, change.
And test, I suppose.
Test, change things. Never be afraid to change. We have clients who sometimes just test us the whole time. They'll be like, change. And often they'll come back to our first, opinion. But you've also got, as an agency, you've got to push back a lot. You've got to say, guys, you chose us because we know what we're doing. Look at how this is. This is what you want. I'm showing you how it works, but trust us as well. And when clients don't trust you, you've got to say, okay, this isn't working, because you're not listening to why we're telling you that this works. We're telling you this works because not only do we understand what you're doing, but we understand the market. And people are interesting like that. They'll always say, but you don't understand my business. I'll say, actually, I do understand your business because I understand it as a consumer of your business. And that's what you need. You need someone who's saying, okay, I want to buy your products. So you've got to trust the experts at the end of the day. And we do push back. And you actually need someone who pushes back. You can't have a yes man who says, okay, I'll just do what you want. And that's often what you get when you build your own store. You don't get perspective.
And when it comes to building a store, what do you guys keep in mind? Like when it comes to let's talk about the psychological element of this, because as I've said before we pressed record, when it comes to making money online, whether it's e-commerce or whether you have a business that needs to do lead generation, if you're using digital marketing or any marketing today, you need 2 pillars. You need technology. That's the one pillar, because that's going to help you get your message in front of the right people at the right time. It's going to help you host your online store. It's going to help people get there and buy what they need and see what they need. And then you need psychology. You need to really understand the customer. You need to understand what their problems are, and you need to understand how your solution integrates with their daily lives. And you then need to speak to them in a way that they understand. And ideally, if they resonate, they're going to open their wallets and buy the product that they obviously are looking at because they believe it's going to be a good fit for them. So when it comes to the psychological element of building a site, I think a lot of people just build a site for the sake of building a site, and they put their product right in front of people's faces, and then they say, hey, here's my product. Do you want it? This is the cost. Click add to cart button, and you go through the checkout process. But building a successful site that converts, like you guys specialize in, goes way beyond just building a site and hosting your products on that site. So if you don't mind, is there any psychological elements that you guys consider or look at, or tactics that you guys implement when it comes to resonating with the customer and essentially actually just increasing the conversion rates of these online stores?
Well, just like off the bat, I can think of 3 things. The first one is trust. The second one is it attractive? And the third one is, does it hit my pain points? So when I say trust, South Africans are like babies in the e-commerce market. They really don't trust. They don't have a culture of e-commerce yet. So you have to make them trust. You have to, as they open that page, they've got to feel that this is trustworthy. And some people do it wrong. They'll say, okay, I'm going to be a .com store. And I'll say, why are you a .com? You're selling to South African audiences. They don't want to shop off a .com. And the reason they don't want to shop off a .com is because they want to know that they're getting it from a South African merchant who's going to deliver it in 2 to 5 days or even shorter, who they know is like not drop shipping. They want to know that you're a South African. Make it a .co.za. You're selling local products. Get them fast. So they'll be like, no, I want a .com, .co.za. I shop online only, and I will choose a co.za over a .com because I know it's not going to take me 6 weeks to get it. Trust. Do I have a good payment gateway? Are you using a good courier? Does it look reputable? Am I going onto a site which just looks dodgy? Does it look like it's been homemade? And that's another thing. You make a homemade site, people do not trust you. They think bid or buy and some dodgy guy who you're never going to get your product from.
Because there's so many of them.
Because there are, and people get burnt. So many people get burnt. My mother will not shop online. She's like, no, Melissa, I'll never get my product. And when I get it, it'll be rubbish. It won't fit me. And I'll say, but then you can return it. She said, they'll never return it. So trust. Massive thing about trust. And your site has to look trustworthy. Okay, the next thing has got to be beautiful. And people trust, I think the statistics say that you trust a website within the first second that you open it. It has to, you open it, it has to be beautiful. It has to grab you visually. If it's like ugly and it looks dodgy and it looks like someone made it at home with some stock pictures and whatever, they're closing, they're bouncing. The bounce rate on websites is like 60%, Get people in there. You want your bounce rate to be no higher than 30%. People hear 30% bounce rate, they're like, that's massive. That's average.
Let's just explain the bounce rate quickly. So that's obviously when someone comes to a specific page and then leaves that page without browsing anything else.
Exactly. So, if you've got a high bounce rate, and people bounce fast. I bounce fast. If there's lots of content on there, I'm out of there. People don't realize that. Words, people are like, oh, I've got so much information, my store's so amazing, I'm going to write like a whole about us on the front page. I'm like, no one's going to read it. No one cares. They want your products there. I tell them, you can write the most beautiful product description in the world. Your reviews are going to sell over your product description. So you've got to also understand that. And then, what was my third one again?
Pain points.
Pain points. Hit your pain points fast. Why do people want to shop? It solves my problem. What's my problem? Frizzy hair. This hairbrush is amazing. It stops all the frizz. Maybe it doesn't, but and it's free shipping.
Well, the review says it does.
The review says, okay, and it's free shipping, and it delivers to me in 2 days. It's next day shipping. Oh my goodness, it hits my 3 pain points. I'm so happy. It's there. Yesterday, I can't even remember what I did. I added something like really arbitrary to my Take-A-Lot cart because I didn't want to pay 30 Rand shipping. We're stupid like that, but hit those pain points and hit them fast. Free shipping. It's a big one. We had a store who wasn't doing free shipping. We added free shipping onto them. They increased from, I think they were making 600,000 Rand a month in turnover to 1 million.
But doing just that change, implementing that one change.
To free shipping. It was massive in a month. So free shipping. Just hit those pain points. Whatever what your product solves, show that is what your product solves. Every product solves a problem.
And the thing is here is and this is from a marketing's perspective, is that don't focus on the features, focus on the benefits. Because people understand the benefits. They don't necessarily understand that the brush is this much in millimeters in width and that it's this type of handle, or if the handle is custom made towards a specific grip, then that's what you should say. It's like, this brush is essentially so easy to use and it's so comfortable in your hand. You're going to want to walk around with it the whole freaking day, as opposed to saying we've got this material or that material, because people don't know what that means. They want to understand how it's going to really impact their lives. That was a very simple and stupid example, but one of the things that the first thing in marketing that you learn is like people don't care about the features. They don't care about the fact that this laptop is a 3.x gigahertz laptop. They care about the fact that your apps are never going to lag, no matter how many tabs you've got open. So the benefit is that you can have 1,000,000 tabs open and your computer should be running smoothly versus having 2 tabs open and you're going to have to wait for the wheel of death to disappear.
Exactly. The beach ball of doom.
Exactly.
But exactly. And that's marketing on a page. And you get that across as fast as you can. That first image on your front page says, this hairbrush solves all your existential crises. You know, whatever it is, get it across fast. That's my opinion on like what sells a website.
I love the free shipping thing because that's a big thing that we always. So we have like a checklist when we run through an e-commerce store. Again, we're not Shopify experts. We're not even e-commerce experts to the point of building a site, but we would like to call ourselves marketing experts. And these 35 or 40 elements that we have are all psychological marketing elements. So the first one would be, and this is for us exactly the same, trust. So under trust, we'll have, is your contact number and your email address at the top of your site? Because we've seen that there's a drastic change in perspective if you have clear contact details at the top of the site versus at the bottom of the site, because that's the first thing people see, which means now if I have an issue and if I buy something, I know that I can contact someone and complain, or I can, if I have an issue, I can ask someone for advice, and there is a number I can contact.
100%.
Versus not knowing, because the scam artist is not going to put his details there, and he's not going to want you to contact him if you never get the product, right?
100%.
So those are like 30, 40 elements that we always run over, and all of them are psychologically, implemented in some way, shape, or form. And free shipping, I mean, from what we've seen, the case study, obviously, that you've just mentioned, massive. I mean, that's a 40%, like, what is that? Almost, 40-odd% growth.
Yeah.
Just by implementing one little tactic, which is absolutely crazy.
We were absolutely amazed. It was like we did not expect that kind of growth. But it does show you. I mean, incentivized shipping, everyone does incentivized shipping. Incentivized shipping is when you say shipping over 500 Rand is free. And people pad their carts. People put in like the llama stapler or whatever it is. They put in the stupidest things because they don't want to pay.
Yeah.
I mean, take a lot of things, 30 Rand or 50 Rand or whatever. That's what we do. Because that's how exactly the psychology of shopping.
At the previous company I worked at, that's exactly it. We had $1,500 free shipping, but I mean, we sold high-end items. So we sold whey proteins and pre-workouts. So the average whey protein was about $600. The average pre-workout was $300, and then you're sitting with an average cart size of 1,000 Rand. So we said, spend $1,500, get free shipping and a free shirt. So what happened was our average basket sizes increased because people were incentivized to spend more. But what you would pay in shipping, that shirt is what you would have paid in shipping anyway. Yeah. So, technically to some extent, well, it's actually worth more. But for us, what we have to pay in shipping is what the shirt is worth at the end of the day as well.
And shipping is exorbitant. People do not realize that let's say you're paying between 50 and 150 Rand per shipping, and you're shipping a 80 Rand product. It's exorbitant. It's going to kill you otherwise.
No, shame, and I 100% agree. And I think more people should consider the psychological element of building a site and not just building a site themselves. And I think that's where the experts come in, because a forum is not necessarily going to help you craft a strategy that's best suited to your brand from a psychological perspective.
I mean, we send onboarding forms which have your terms and conditions, your refund policy, your shipping policy, etc. And they're templates, they're skeletons. And we say, this is what you need. Go and take our templates and our skeletons and have a look at them and decide what you want and what you don't want. But we're giving them to them, because otherwise, do you know how long it takes in like a normal company to go and figure out those kind of things on their own?
I can imagine.
It takes forever. I mean, I think about my first store where I had to set up my own payment gateway and I almost lost chunks of hair. Versus now, I mean, we literally, I'll phone my contact, I'll say, this is what I've got. Do you have a preferential rate for me? What can we do?
No, for sure. You mentioned warranties. That's a big thing for people. Like, people want to know, how long can I keep this, and if it breaks, can I return it? Return policies and warranties to us is two massive things, because a lot of people don't even have a return policy. on the site, visible on the site somewhere, so people don't know, can I return this? And the moment you buy something from somebody, it's a business transaction. So imagine you and me had to go into business, and I tell you, Melissa, let's do business together, but you take all the risk.
Yeah.
And if this business doesn't work, you have to pay all the money back to the bank and to all the suppliers as well. At no point are you going to be like, Canray, that's a great idea. So that is how we explain it to our clients, because now if you want someone to buy something from you, it's the exact same thing. You need to eliminate some risk for this customer. He has to spend money with you. He has to do a business transaction with you.
Yeah.
So it's about eliminating some of the risk for him. And that is by offering a 1-year warranty or a lifetime warranty. Like a lot of products have lifetime warranties. But it's saying, okay, cool, if you can't offer a lifetime, 1 year, 6 months, just give somebody something. And then a return policy. So if you don't like the product, or if it doesn't fit, or it doesn't work, or you can return it within 30 days, money back guarantee, or whatever it is. So that's one of the reasons I believe Takealot is so successful, because they've eliminated all the risk of someone doing business with them. You can return it anytime you want. Like I always use the example, not this specific charger, but an Apple charger we've bought 2 or 3 times and it breaks because it's a generic one. And to the point where I actually felt bad that we obviously buying a generic charger for a real Apple. And I was like, let's just go buy a real one. And I made sure that we bought it from Takealot, because the 3 ones obviously cost them some money back in shipping, back and forth, and someone had to pay for it. So essentially I felt so bad. I was like, shame, man, like these guys have refunded us. And I went and bought an Apple charger from them. Yeah. Well, from one of their suppliers, but essentially one of their merchants. But I think it was so easy to just say, we're not happy. Can you come take this product back?
100%.
And they did it every single time. And it's not always possible.
Well, I did it the other day. I bought an iron. It stopped working. I was like, I know it's in warranty. I cannot find the warranty anywhere. It's driving me insane. What am I going to do? I went on to Takealot and I bought another iron. And why did I do that? Because I knew that if I needed to return it, I'd go through my history. I'd say, oh, here's my history. Return.
Convenience.
Because exactly. And that's what you want.
No, shame, man. That's awesome. So I want to conclude. Melissa, thank you so much for coming through today. It was such a nice chat, and I think you've added. No, it was such a pleasure, and I want to thank you for coming through. You've added a ton of value to those listening, for those wanting to start online businesses, and for those who have their own online businesses. I think you've changed their perspective, and for those wanting to start, I think they have a good idea of what they need to do. They need to do their homework, and they need to contact you. That's what they need to do. So I think if it comes down to that, where do people get hold of you guys?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, which is now up, finally, which is maverikweb.co.za. And all our details are on it, even my cell phone number, ridiculously so. And they can call me or email me, and we'll get back to them, and we'll chat to them.
So from my side, I'm going to add all of that information into the show notes.
Okay, thank you.
And so from my side, again, it's crucial, and the roles that you guys are playing is crucial for us as a marketing agency as well. And I think I'm looking forward to our relationship as well, purely because of the fact that, it's so important to have someone build something that lasts, build something that works, because you can spend all the marketing in the world. If you don't have your house in order, nothing's going to happen. Yeah. And we've seen it so many times. So I'm looking forward to that. From my side, thanks again for coming through, and all the best.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.